Hey guys, it's John, ReelBlue Custom Rods. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do another custom net build, or another custom bait net build, if you will. 18-inch handle, AFCO net with an 8-inch net. And I find that the 8-inch net is perfect for your live wells. It can come in a 10-inch as well, but I like the 8-inch. So what I'm going to do is I did a recent video on doing a custom bait net, and you can see that up here in the top right hand corner. So a lot of, some thread work, some dragon scale, and some stuff like that on that one. This one I'm going to do a little differently, and we're going to do some pigment work on this one. And I think you guys are going to enjoy it, and then hopefully I'm able to show you something, give you something else you can put in your kit bag, when it comes to rod building and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is I've already removed it. As you guys will see in that previous video that I was just talking about, these things come with a foam handle. They're not glued on there. They just kind of slide a little bit. And then I remove the butt cap that's on there to take that stuff off. So after removing that, the first thing I want to do is I like to go ahead and prepare the surface for what I'm getting ready to do, because it is metal or aluminum, if you will, and it's got that finish on her. So I'm just going to use this green pad, and all I'm doing is I'm just trying to rub this handle, and all I'm trying to do is just take the shine off of it a little bit. I'm not trying to sand down or anything like that. I'm just trying to take the shine off of this finish. So when I put my pigment on here, I want to make sure that pigment will stay on there. And again, I'm not trying to sand it down and get down to bare aluminum. I'm just trying to go through here and take just the shine out of the color, just to make sure I have a good surface for my pigment and my finish to adhere to. So once I've done that, and you can see, right here on the green pad, that brown stuff, that's actually from the handle here on the net. So so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and measure up a couple of things in preparation. And what I like to do, because I'm going to be making some pigment work on this, up here at the end, I know that I'm going to have some thread work at the end where this ties in, and basically giving me a transition between the pigment and the bottom of the bait net. And I could take the pigment all the way up to the top, or I could just do a couple of tag wraps or whatnot. But I do like to have a little bit of thread wrap there at the tip. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a mark. And I think I'm going to call it probably, I'm going to say a 1/4 inch. And if I go a little more than a 1/4 inch, that's fine. But basically, I want my finish to stop here with my pigment work, and then I'm going to leave that open. The next thing I want to do, or the next mark that I want to make, is I want to identify how much handle I want to have. And I'll be using shrink tube again on this one. Like to, dry fit my shrink tube. Always make sure it's going to fit on there. And then what I want to do is, figure out where that handle, how much of that shrink tube I want to be on the handle. And of course, I'll have a straighter cut at the end. But I want to make sure that I've got enough finish on here. And then I want to make sure I have a spot where I can put my logo. So I'm just kind of working through some things, making some marks. So I think what I want to do, I want to have, let's say, 5 inches of finish And then I need some room for my logo. So actually, let me say I want, and I'm kind of looking at my handle, seeing where I'm at here. 5 inches. Yeah. So I think 5 inches of finish is good. And then what that will allow me to do is I'll have my handle finished somewhere in around the inch mark or so, 1.5 inch mark. And then that's where I will have my logo. I'll have some regular nylon thread, which will transition, or some color fast or NCP thread. And then I'll transition that over the shrink tube handle. So now that I have that mark made, and I know where I want to be at, so I've got 5 inches of a place where I'm going to be doing some finish work. The next thing that I want to do is I'm going to take a little bit of yellow painter's tape. I'm just going to kind of tear it in half. And then what I would like to do is I like to put some tape here on this part of the handle, or excuse me, of the net, the bottom part. And the reason why I like to put some tape there is when it's in the dryer, it's not necessarily, very round, right? It's got some edges on it, some angles. So I like to put the tape on there. So when it rotates or spins in the dryer, it doesn't mess up the composite portion of the net here. And then also kind of preserves the velvet part of where your blank or your net would be lying as it's rotating or spinning in the dryer. So I like to make that mark. The other one I like to do is I'm just going to take some tape and I am going to wrap this tape down here on the bottom of the handle. And the reason why I'm putting this in here is I'm just trying to create a little bit larger of a diameter. So when I set it into my dryer, it'll sit inside that chuck pretty tight. And that way it'll make sure it continues to move around and rotate while the dryer is rotating it. And again, just a technique I do. And then once I put the shrink wrap on, I'll take this off and then put the shrink wrap on for the handle, or the shrink tube on for the handle. So again, just doing this to put it into the dryer. And then the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and prepare the finish. All right, so now I've mixed up my finish, my part A and my part B in a little plastic shot cup. And then I have my little lollipop stick here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix this finish around slowly for about 5 minutes, stirring it slowly and making sure I have a good mixture. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out the mixing stick there. I'm going to let that set for a few minutes and do its thing. And I just want it to kind of cool down a little bit. It's really hot, meaning the chemical reaction between your part A and your part B, or your resin and your hardener. So I'm just going to let it set for a couple of minutes and kind of cool out for a second. While I do that, I'm going to go ahead and prepare for the pigment. And so the pigment we're going to use today is we're going to use some Harajuku Girl from Eye Candy and put this on there. This stuff is going to have some really cool effect. I think you guys will really like it. Again, this is the Harajuku Girl pigments, all right? And so, again, by Eye Candy. So we're just going to go ahead and open this up. Open up my lid here. All right, so now I have my pigment, and then I'm going to use this toothpick to put this pigment in here. And I want to make sure I get a good heavy color. So pigment goes a long way, but I do want to make sure I get a good heavy mix in here. So I'm going to go ahead and cap that, set that aside. And we'll come back to the mixing stick. We're going to mix this in a little bit, real slow. And make sure we get it nice and blended in the finish. And I'm trying not to create any bubbles, but I'm trying to make sure that I get all the powder mixed. I want a nice, smooth, clean mixture here. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that set for a few minutes, still a little bit hot. So I'm just going to set that aside. All right, so I have my net set up here, and you can see my 2 marks that I don't want to go past with my pigment. And now I've got my pigment with my finish with my Harajuku pigment mixed up in there, and I'm going to go ahead and mix it a little bit more with the brush. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying this on here. And I'm just, eyeballing it, if you will. All right, that's one end. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing on the far end. And all I'm really doing right now is just getting my marks so where I know I stay in between once I do my thread work. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying down my Harajuku pigment here. I'm just getting this laid down how there's no rhyme or reason to it, no method to the madness. I'm just laying it down. And you can see that you can essentially see through it a little bit and see some of that gold color from the handle. And that's okay. That is okay for right now. I'm just putting the finish on, turning this by hand and just making sure I have it where I want it at. And then rotate it. Let that set a little bit and come back. And again, I'm just making sure I cover all of the pieces of metal on there or aluminum with my pigment, my Harajuku pigment, if you will. And I'm just kind of coming back, working on my ends. Just kind of blending that in a little bit. And that's really it. And I'm just kind of going back and finding some spots where I might have missed. And then I'm just, adding that on there, mixing that finish up. And then, laying down another coat, making sure we're good. And that's really it. And so the next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to take it the way it is now, and I am going to put this on the dryer, and we're going to let this first coat of pigment and finish go ahead and cure and set up on this handle, and then we'll come back and get into the second step. So we'll be right back, and stay right there. Hey guys, welcome back. So as you can see, I've got the first coat of the pigment on here and with the epoxy. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a second one. And you can see I actually went just a little bit further past where I wanted to go. And I did that intentionally. I figured I wanted to come down a little bit further as I was just kind of looking at the progress so far. So you can see that I've got the finish on there. You can see the reflection that it gives you when the light hits it, but you can also see kind of the lines here from the alloy, or from the handle, if you will. And you can see a couple spots here where I had an air bubble and I cut that down with a razor blade. So all I'm going to do now is do a second coat and try to, a bit heavier, but not a bit of a heavier coat, but do a second coat to help cover up the stuff that's still exposed, if you will. I'm just going to start down here on the one end, on the very far end, and you guys will see that here in a second. All right. And then I'm going to come back down here to right here, just hand rotating this. There we go. And I'm just applying my pigment here. And I'm kind of heavy-handed a little bit, and I want to do that on purpose. And so I'm just smoothing that out as we go. And again, here, going on to cover up that first coat, do a little bit heavier. So we cover up some of that see-through from the previous coat, if you will, where it can see through to the handle. So we're just rotating, applying the finish with the pigment in there, mixing it up as I go a little bit. And just making sure I cover each part. And then coming back. And we'll do that again. We'll just keep mixing it up. Laying that finish on top. You can see we're getting a little heavier. I'm just covering all the parts we haven't put the second coat on so far. And then just kind of rotate that around. Find some spots. And then what I'm going to want to do here is I'm just going to start laying some, making a couple of patterns with this brush. And then rotating that around and then trying to get some action in here with this pigment. And meaning I just want to cover, I don't want it to be clear where I can see straight down, But what I do want to do is make some interesting spots, maybe some dollops. And then right there, another dollop, and just spin that around. And I'm just trying to get that finish just to do a little something for me. And then if I wanted to, I could come back in. I'm going to come in with a toothpick, and I can kind of come in here, make some marks out if I want. You know, I'm just trying to use this Harajuku Girl pigment to give me, and I want that holographic look in there, just to give me some different patterns and some swirls and techniques. So it'll give it some character when the light hits it. So you can see just by using the brush and putting, you know, making a shape or a design with the brush with the pigment on it, and then coming in with something like a Q-tip or a dental tool, you know, you can come in and still move that around a little bit and get some design going. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I like how it is. And now what I want to do is I want to get this on the dryer again, and we're going to go ahead and let the second coat dry, and then we'll come back and take a look and see where we're at. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. And so what I'm going to do now is we've added 2 coats again of the Harajuku Girl pigment by Eye Candy. And now what I want to do is I'm going to do some free flow thread work, if you will, and just kind of mix some things up with a little bit of thread wrap. And then we're going to kind of set this up and put some finish on a couple of spots. But what I want to do really quick is just show you guys a technique. So I'm just taking some tape and making it double-sided for myself, and I'm just using some, you know, light masking tape here. And I'm trying to find where I want to do this at. So this it's not too complicated, but what I want to do is I want to get a couple of pieces of tape on there, and then I want to find some threads that I think are going to look good with this color. Of course, I think regular purple could, maybe in the violet hint, a metallic Versa thread would look good on there. You know, and then I'm not sure, you know, the dark purple may be too dark, but maybe the light blue, not necessarily the metallic. So I'm just going to try a few different things. We're going to try a few different colors here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this Pro Wrap Metallic 9632. It was like a light lavender, metallic lavender. Get a bite on my double-sided tape. And then just spin this rod or this bait net and get a good bite and just have that thread work on there. Notice I didn't go all the way up to the other tape up here. And that was, you know, done purposely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this darker purple and do the same thing. But I think what I want to do is I'm going to go back this way on it. And we're not going to go all the way down. We're just kind of, there we go, get that on the tape. Get a good bite on the tape. Get it locked on itself a little bit. All right. Now what I'm going to do, I think in no particular order here, and I'm going to go with Pro Wrap nylon. Now this regular nylon thread 404 size A, but this time I am going to do the full wrap. Means I'm going to go from down here where the shrink tube will go all the way down to the far end. And then come back. There we go. All right, so I got the blue on there. We have these three colors, the lavender, the purple, and the light blue nylon. And now what I'm doing is I'm just looking at this, and I just want to see if this would be a good color or if this is just too much. And this is the Henton Versa metallic thread, or metallic Versa thread. And I'm just trying to see if that would be okay or if that would be too much. And I'm almost thinking that that would probably be too much metallic. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to look at the regular nylon thread. And I think I'm going to choose the regular nylon thread. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here from the top. And I'm going to go in a different direction. And then I think I'm going to go down and lock this up down here. And then we're just going to go back. And there's no, again, no method to the madness here. Just trying to create some different patterns or some looks with this thread. And then I'm going to just come right down here to the tape and lock that down. A few wraps. And we're going to cut that. And then set that aside, set this thread aside. And now what I want to do is I want to lock all of this thread down that I've made with those patterns. I just want to lock it in and get it locked down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in now. Now I'm going to use some regular nylon thread, size D, and I'm going to start to lock this down. And I'm going to start right at the end, basically, of where I had the thread wrap, or excuse me, where I finished the epoxy. So I'm just going to start right there. Tighten that down a little bit. And I'm just going to start turning this rod or this bait net. And I'm just trying to get this in. I don't need it super nice looking, and you'll see why here, shortly. But I'm just trying to lock this in. I have it tight, so I want it to be pretty snug. I'm just packing the thread as I go here. Now I'm going to do a good little bit, just tightening that down. Now I'm going to cut my working end of this thread. And at that point, it really, quite honestly, doesn't matter. I really didn't need to cut it, but I'm just going a little bit more. And then what we'll do is we'll tie this one off here. But I just want to make sure I've got it nice and tight. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to find a flat end right here. I'm going to put my other piece of size D thread in there so I can loop this in and pull this tight. So I'm going to go around no less than 5 times. So it's 2. Just packing as I go. 3, 4, 5, go one more time. 6. So now I'm going to go take that up. Now we're going to run this thread through the loop. I'm going to hold that purple thread tight. I'm going to grab this part here, put my finger there, and cinch that down without breaking it. And just trying to tighten down that purple thread. And then come back in with this burnishing tool and do the same thing there and tighten that down. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to use my razor blade and cut through there, through that tape. Grab my scissors. Yeah, I'm going to pass on this here. We're going to go to the razor blade. There we go. And I'm just taking these, cleaning these threads off of there. All right, now take that tape off. Okay, so now I've got or I have, excuse me, I've got this locked down again. I'm just pulling that thread tight. Now I'm going to trim that thread. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here on the far end. So I'm going to start right up here, not right next to the tape, but pretty close. Get a few bites with the thread here on itself. All right. Then I'm going to pull that working end tight a little bit and help it get a bite inside that finish. And then continue to wrap. And I'm going to use my yellow burnishing tool to pack those threads. Try to make a nice straight line. And so if you like what you guys are seeing so far, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. Again, it's another technique on using thread and epoxy finish, but just doing it on a bait net, right? Let me know what you guys think. If you're getting something out of the video, and if you are, please feel free to share it with somebody that you think will find it useful. So I'm just going to keep wrapping this. I want to cut this working end. We'll just keep wrapping. And then now what I think I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and get my loop ready here, since we're kind of working down towards the back end of this. Now again, this is regular nylon thread. And the great thing about regular nylon thread is that it will hide any flaws. So you can be a little rough here with your wraps, and you won't see that. So you can just be aggressive in trying to make sure you cinch these down, and then it's going to that nylon thread, when you put your finish on and it dries, it's very forgiving versus NCP thread. And I know you guys have heard me say that a lot before, but I just want to reiterate that. So now I'm going to pull this tight, cinch that down, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did at the far end with this razor blade. I'm going to cut. And then find these threads and then cut them with the razor blade. And I don't want to pull on these little end pieces, because those are those pieces of thread that go to, the thread that we kind of wove around each other and stuff. So I'm just going in and using this razor blade to cut it without applying too much pressure, because even though I have that thread, that purple thread cinching down on it, if I pull too much or apply too much pressure, I can still move those threads, which I don't want to do. There, so we got the tape off. And then same thing, go in here. tighten it down one last time, and then cut that working end off. And now the next step that I want to do is I want to apply some finish over these. And you guys will see what I'm talking about. But basically, I just want to lock these purple thread wrap set, these over wraps that I just made. I want to lock these in with the finish, and then I'm going to come over and do a little bit more decorative wrap, and then we'll kind of go from there. So let me lock these down, and then I will come back and we'll pick back up and do some different tag wraps and add the handle and get all of that stuff situated. So stay with me, and we'll be right back, guys. Bye. Hey guys, welcome back. So as you can see, I have the finish laid on, and it's covering down here on the left and the right where I had the purple nylon thread, and then I went ahead and covered up the thread wraps that I laid here with the finish, and then cut out some air bubbles there. But so now what I want to do is I'm going to find or rotate the net to the bottom, or what I would call the bottom or the back side. And now I'm going to start to address some other portions of this build so we can kind of finish this out. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and start throwing in some tag wraps, if you will. And I think what I want to do, and I know I didn't use any of this blue on there, but I think I want to incorporate a tiny bit because of the color. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in. All right, so we'll start rotating this around. All right. I cut that one probably a little too big, but that's okay. So I'm just trying to use the straw method here. I'm going to pass this thread down through here. All right, there we go. We got the first one passed under there. We're going to take this second one, come underneath there, but we're right at the end, so we kind of want it to come up. All right, pull that off, and then now what we'll do is we will slide this down. And we'll use our burnishing tool, pack that thread down. Just packing that thread all the way down to the end, and then get it tight. And cut that with our razor blade. All right, and then we're going to do that again, but this time we are going to do that with, I'm thinking we're going to do that with, the darker purple, which is the 9600. Again, Pearl Wrap Metallic. And then we are going to start wrapping this around. All right, slide that underneath. And the same thing on the back side. And then burnishing tool, we'll slide that thread down. And you can see that down here, what we're working on. And one more time. There we go. Now what we'll do is tighten it down again, and then we're going to cut that with the razor blade. And then I want to do that same thing again, but this time I'm going to use some 9410 Pearl Wrap Metallic thread. And I'm doing that because there's this little bit of this silverish blue tint in there. And I'm going to use this blue thread to kind of play off of that. All right. Pull that through. We'll do the same thing on this side. Again, burnishing tool. We'll pull that thread tight, get it bite into that finish. So I got one, thin layer of finish down here on the end that's dried, right? I'm just getting that to bite into that. All right. And then razor blade again. All right, so now we've got that part taken care of. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with the same purple thread, and I'm just going to tie in to, I just want to tie in with this purple thread right against where I left off on these tag wraps. And because, we laid down some finish already, I'm going to take a piece of tape. Because we laid down some finish already, when you're moving that thread across the top of the finish, it's not sticky, if you will, because, the finish is dry. But it does get a little tricky sometimes moving thread across some dry finish. All right. And so all I'm doing is packing this thread down. And what I'm trying to do here is cover up a little more. of this aluminum, but also lay down some thread finish, right? And so I think that's good for this piece. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate that and then cut. All right. And then same thing, keep spinning. And I'm just trying to take this purple and finish up this unfinished area here. And then what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to tie something in here maybe. I'm debating. I think I'm going to back off a little bit. Right there, I think. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in another piece of this 9410. And I'm just going to do a single inlay. I'm going to get some tape on here so it doesn't move around. All right, and so we're going to do the same thing. Keep wrapping this up. About 5 wraps. It's 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna go a few more because I know I'm gonna move on this far end a little bit more as well. So. All right. Okay. So I'm going to take my blue thread. And now what I want to do is I'm going to come in and I think we're going to do a double. We're going to do a double inlay. I'm just putting a little tension on there. And I think I want to spin this around maybe 1 or 2 more times. All right, there we go. And then I'm just going to bring that back up to center, use my finger. Use my burnishing tool. All right, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with my razor blade, cut that little looking end off. All right. And then we'll do the same thing down here. All right, and now I'm just going to finish up wrapping this down past this current purple wrap that I have here, that first over wrap I created. I'm just going past that with this purple. All right, so I'm just rotating. All right. So I think I'm getting down to where I want to be at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my piece of thread here to pull that through. All right, so let's set this thread up here. And what I'm going to do is use a piece of tape to hold these down here. Just while I turn. And then release them. Pass them underneath and back over the top. And that's just because I'm using it for this thread here. So I can't go over to the whole piece. Come back around just like we did before. And I think I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to pass these through. All right, so I'm just trying to pass this through. All right. And now what I want to do is use my burnishing tool, pack it in a little bit, make sure it's up and against that thread where I want it to be, and place my finger over the top and start to give it a tug. That's going to help just get it tight, but it's also going to help it bite into that finish a little bit. And it won't move on me. One more little tug. All right. And then there's that portion. So what I want to do, as you can see, that's the portion there. So now what I want to do is I just want to continue the metallic thread wrap from there just down to this other end. So we got to go back with the blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we'll pull this back, do the same thing on this side. And then slowly use our fingers to push this thread down next to the purple. And then come back to the burnishing tool. Nice slow movements to help pack that thread next to that purple. So now that I have that blue thread on there, I'm going to come back with the dark purple metallic thread, again, 9600. I'm going to wrap this on here and then we'll hit that lavender and then we'll move down to the final spot down there. But so we'll wrap this on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Okay, so now I have that, pop the straw out. And we're going to slide this dark purple down gently so we don't make it overlap itself. And apply a little pressure. And a little pressure there. And then we're going to use the burnishing tool and just help pack those threads against that blue. Because I want them nice and tight because, again, there's finish under here. So if I cinch this down before packing them in, there's a good chance I won't be able to move that thread if it gets a bite into that finish that's on top of it. So there we go. So I've got that. Give it a good tug. What we'll do is we'll cut that purple off. Same thing there. Again, one more time. All right. And then what we'll do now, we're going to do the light purple 9632 or the lavender color. We're going to do that one last tag wrap right there. One. And now we're going to add this light lavender color. All right, I'm gonna go pack those threads in a little bit. All right, and then what we can do is we can cut that thread. And then use that burnishing tool. There we go, pack that thread down. And then now what we can do is we can use a piece of tape. I think I'd like to use a piece of tape so that we can wrap that thread off of. So what I want to do is now, so what I did is I went ahead and added the shrink tube onto the handle, and I didn't want to bore you with that. And so in the video that I posted at the beginning of this one with the link to it, you can see in that video how to do the shrink tube handle on there if you like. But what I did is I added the shrink tube all the way up. You can see just a little bit of that aluminum handle. So I added the shrink tube up to there. And then what I want to do is I want to identify a spot where I think I want to stop with my thread, with that purple thread. And I'm trying to pick a spot that I feel like will take my my logo, if you will. And so what I can do is before I put my tape down, I can find the spot. So I want my logo to be somewhere like right here on that purple area. So I think right here, and that's where the tape is. Yeah, so I think that's a good spot. So that where I've placed this tape, that gives me enough room. That gives me enough room to put some purple thread on here. And then it gives me enough room. Once I have the first coat or two of finish, it'll allow me to put the decal on there that I want to have, and it'll stay on there. So again, size D thread, and then I'm just coming over, getting a bite on this. And I'm just going all the way up against that piece of tape. Give a little tug there on that thread. And then I'm just going to rotate this and all the way down. A little tension off of my rod, or off my tension holder there. Tension rod, and I'm just going to rotate this all the way down. Oop, don't want to double over. And then I'm going to take this purple thread all the way to the bottom down here to the shrink tube, and then over the top of that a little bit, and then back down, a little double overwrap. And again, you know, I know I've said it a lot, very many times. The great thing about why I'm using regular nylon thread here to do this overwrap piece onto the shrink tube, again, nylon thread is super forgiving, especially if it's a color that's going to darken once you apply the finish. You're not going to see the imperfections or anything like that of the threads because it just dries as a solid color when you're using regular nylon thread. Not the case if you're using NCP or metallic thread. You're able to see, you know, each individual strand of thread when you put it on there. So just going to tighten this down. And we're going to go all the way down. To the shrink tube and then up over the edge of that. And that's why I put a little finish on here. One is to make sure I can get this easy wrap and I don't have the other threads below it, you know, leaving a mark from like the crisscross or whatever. And when I wrap this thread over this purple thread that already has one coat of finish on it, it's just a little bit easier. We're just going right down this finish and then right over this first wrap with some finish on top of it, and then back up over the shrink tube. And again, regular nylon thread is extremely forgiving and allows you to make what could look like a rough transition from your shrink tube or your handle material back over your wrap. It can look like it's rough, but once you put the finish on, all you're going to see is that color. In this case, it's just going to be purple. You won't be able to see the, the individual threads in there like you would be with NCP thread or something like that. So I'm just wrapping this down. I'm just kind of, backing off a little bit and keep going, especially right here where I get a little rough on this thread where the finish was at for that thread wrap underneath. And then again, it may look like I'm doubling back over, and I am. I'm kind of overwrapping my thread there. And again, because I'm using regular nylon thread, I can do this. I can get away with this wrap here. And then I'm just gonna continue on because I have kind of that uneven cut, if you will, on the shrink tube. And I'm just making sure I'm covering everything that I need covered with this thread on this shrink tube. And I will go back. I mean, this will be a complete double over wrap, but I'm making sure I get all that shrink tube covered because I had kind of that crooked cut on it. And build up a little bit where I had the transition for that uneven edge from the shrink tube to the thread wrap as well. Yeah, I see one more spot I want to make sure I'm in. All right, So now I'm just going to go down a little further on this shrink tube. And I think that is probably good enough. And now I'm going to kind of double back over. Make sure I'm on my bottom side here. And now we're just kind of working our way back up towards the tape, essentially doing a double overwrap, right? That is what we're doing here. Just keep wrapping back up towards the tape. And once I get up to the tape, we'll take the tape off and I'll do a couple tag wraps. And you see me here, like I keep adjusting the spool here. That's because I purposely have my tension rod set tight because I want it to be tight when I'm over wrapping that shrink tube. I don't want it super loose. I want it to have some tension when I'm doing that wrap. So that's why I have that tension rod so tight and why you see me just hand adjusting it like this. So all right, almost done with this double over wrap for this handle. All right, so what we'll do, go ahead and take our thread. Get ready to wrap that down. All right, so we have that. Pull that through, cinch it down, come back with the razor blade, cut that out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to remove the tape. Like so. I'm going to get back up on the bottom side. And now we're going to do the tag wraps. We'll set that there. We'll cut this purple thread. Oh, excuse me, blue thread. Run that through. Then remove the straw. Slide that down all the way up to the purple. And then we start to cinch it down. Come back with the burnishing tool. Pack that up against that purple thread. And then again, cinch it down. Come back with the razor blade. Razor blade. And then we'll do the next color, which is going to be that dark purple. All right. And then we remove that straw, slide the purple down, or the dark purple. There we go. And come back, pack the thread with the burnishing tool. Tighten it down, and we'll cut these working ends off again, just like we always do. All right, and then we're going to add the last tag wrap color, which is the light or lavender metallic thread, 9630, I think that is. And then as a reminder, if you guys are enjoying what you're seeing in the video so far, go ahead and hit the like button. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think, or let me know if you guys have a question about, either this custom net we're doing or anything else really. I do respond to probably 99% of the comments you guys leave, and I'm usually pretty quick about it. I try to be, at least. So, comment down below. Let me know what you think. And if it's your first time to the channel, welcome to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you're notified every time I release a video, which is every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I'm just cinching this lavender thread down. We have that cinched down. Just going to come back with the burnishing tool, pack that in a little bit, and we're going to say that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to put a couple of coats of finish on here, and then we'll come back, and then I will show you how I do the decal, or how I'm going to do the decal for this one, and then we'll kind of go from there. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back. So now what I'm going to do is I've laid down the 2 coats of finish. We have a good base of finish on the net. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of my logos or decals, if you will, on the bait net. And I'll show you how I'm going to put it on there. Instead of running it horizontally with the bait net, I'm going to run it kind of vertically against the bait net. But one of the things I like to do is I like to always kind of find the center of my decal. And the way that I do that, and my decal is a little easy to do just because how it's set up. But what I like to do is just get out a ruler and have a Sharpie on hand, and then just kind of draw a line that gives me kind of, you know, where my decal is at, right? So that's like my center line on my decal. So that way it'll help me when I'm laying this on top of a blank or on top of whatever it is I'm building, as you guys will see here. So the next thing, so now what I'm going to do, now I have the bait net set up. I want to make sure I position it to the top. I want my decal to be on the top today on this one. So that's where I'm positioning it for. And then what I like to do is just make sure, you know, where I'm going to have it. And this is where you could see that that line comes in handy. Another technique that I can do is also run a vertical line versus a horizontal line. I could run a vertical line across my decal to make sure that I'm lined up in the center as well. But I don't think I need to do that, but that is just something else that you could do. Then take a piece of tape. Just make sure you get any blemishes off of there. Again, I want to come back and level out that bait net. I just want to make sure I have it nice and level. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bit of Scotch tape, just regular old Scotch tape, tear me off a piece. Then what I'll do is I'll just take a piece of that tape, stick it on the back of my decal. And that's going to help me, or allow me, when I peel this 2-part decal off, I could take this part with a tape and set it aside. And then I have just my decal here. And then what I can do is I can go ahead and take my decal and get it placed where it is that I want to have it. And I think I want to be right there, like that. Then I'm going to take my burnishing tool and I'm just going to rub that decal on with that burnishing tool. And go back up towards the top. And I use my burnishing tool, go down in all these little cracks here. Again, making sure I'm getting good adhesion. And then that's it. Now I have my decal on there. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let this sit for a little bit and get that static out of there. I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit. And then what I'll do is we'll get a couple of 1 or 2 more coats of finish applied to this. And then we'll come back and check in where we're at. All right, we'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. So here is the finished net. So we've got the last of the finish on there. Got the bait net taped up just while it was in the dryer. And then you can see how that Harajuku pigment came out with that thread work. And then there is the logo piece. So the last thing that I need to do really is I need to attach what I want to have for the butt, if you will. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Win foam, EVA foam butt on the back of this. So I've already done my dry fitting and all that, so we're good to go. And then I've got my 2-part U40 rod bond. And so I'm just finish mixing that up just a tiny bit. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to coat the inside fairly well of this. And then once I know I've got that coated pretty darn good, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit and I'm just going to go right here on the inside. And then right here around the edge. Because what's going to happen is when I push that butt on there, it's going to push forward any finish that's up here on the top on the handle. It'll get pushed forward. So I really don't want to have too much on there. So I'm just getting the last of that finish right there. Move that out of the way. And then all I'm going to do is take the butt and rotate it on till it's in position. Give it a few turns. Make sure I've got a good, nice coat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with some isopropyl alcohol. Move that out of the way. And then just come right in here and then get any paste that might have come up there. Get that out of the way. Again, a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. I can even kind of stand this up on the end. And all I'm doing is making sure I got all the finish off of there. Or excuse me, paste off of there. And then that's really it. And then the last thing that I could do if I like is I can come over with a piece of tape. If I wanted to make sure I wanted a piece of tape to hold that on there in place. But it will be good. It's a nice, good, tight fit. And then I'll probably just come in here a couple more times. And move that paste off of there. And that should be it. And then we're good to go. So that's the finished bait net, if you will, with the Hirajuku pigment by Eye Candy, again, right there. And again, if you're interested in picking this up, I'll have a link down below, an Amazon link. You can pick that stuff up. Let me know if you have any questions about the process. Yeah, again, I hope this helps. I hope you guys like the bait net. If you're interested, the bait net's going to go up on the website here in the next few days. But again, this is an easy way for you to make your own custom bait net if this is something that you're interested in doing, or if you are looking at ways that, doing other things within the fishing rod industry and somebody asks you for one, or you want to make one for someone, that's how you do it. So I'm going to do another one here coming up soon, a third bait net with a totally different style on it. So make sure you guys stay tuned and be on the lookout for that one. So again, thanks for watching. I hope you guys were able to get something out of the video. Please feel free to share it with someone you think will find it useful. And make sure you guys watch this next video here. Until next time, guys, take care. Bye.